My guest, Yve Hart, is a multidimensional practitioner. She has practiced spiritual and healing work for over 20 years. She's the founder of the 40-Day Green Cleanse. She has personally helped heal her own body through Epstein-Barr, chronic fatigue, depression, and stage 4 cancer. And she's going to share a bit of her story and also to talk about how we can activate our chakras and how we can support our healing journeys through cleansing. Welcome, Yve.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your healing journey.
It all started when I was, uh, the story goes, I was born into a family where there was a lot of trauma and drama. And at 4, I closed my heart. I was ill a lot, and my mom thought I might die. Maybe I did have some near-death experiences, actually.
Wow.
And until 19, so it was very up and down. As a psychic being and also very empathic and just sensitive overall. I
Mm.
closed my heart at 4. And then at 19, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue, chronic depression, mono, and they said I'd be medicated for life. And they gave
Wow.
me a couple pills, and I said, this is not the way I want to go. This was my mom's way. And I never knew her to be well a day in her life. And the body can heal. I believe in that. So I feel that was like the wake up call. I stepped up into my life in a new way, called a healer. We did a 30-day cleanse. It was very, um, it was one of those rigid ones. It was very, very strict.
Mm.
But I also did emotional work, some forgiveness, and that combination, I felt like I woke up for the first time in my life, in my body at 19, and the effects of all that really stayed with me. I had her as a mentor. I started, that was my awakening into healing and my
Wow. That's
dedication
a
into
young age.
that. That's about
Yeah.
1992, 3, somewhere like that, where I had my wake-up call. And not many people around me understood the language. Um, there's a lot that's happened, in those years. And for me to start my healing for myself and with others. And then I just started doing groups and loved the energy of groups, cleansing in groups, healing in groups, women's stuff, obviously. You met me during one of our Drum for Love. It
Mhm.
was an 11-hour ceremony and celebration that day. And it took me through, I would go back to where my son was born. Had a great pregnancy, and at the end, my body just didn't feel like my body. And through the years, I would go in these dips, and then I would finally figure it out, okay, go back on a cleanse, do some healing. We're going to get out of this.
Mhm.
And it was a really tough one after the birth of my son. When I started uh trying to pack in all the things I needed to cleanse, but my body just didn't want to do it. We have superpowers when we're pregnant. We have so much intuition,
Yeah.
so much direction. And so I just started, sitting with my body. What does my body need and what does it want? And so someone said, green food really helps. This Yogi Bhajan does something with the green foods, and I started looking up his recommendation, but it's pretty much green food. And I started putting on all the years that I did with my clients and myself. I started putting together everything I knew, and I just started experimenting with green food, and it really started working out. But what I added was gentleness, and I added love, and I added respect for my body. My body didn't want all the things that I used to do for cleansing before pregnancy. It wanted gentleness, it wanted ease, it didn't want to go gung ho,
Yeah. As a
where
mother, that makes
maybe,
sense to me. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
nourishing, gentle. And uh, when, as a coach and working with inner child healing, that's the worst thing you could do is put somebody on a cleanse that doesn't want to be on it. Part of themselves
Mm.
doesn't want to be on it. And at the end, they're just going to rebel. So I put this together and became very successful. I figured I got myself out of that emotional, spiritual funk, but it wasn't till a little later when my cleanse grew to about 100 people,
Wow.
where from one day to the next, I had people at the stores. You changed my life. My children followed too. Everybody shifted the way they eat. And it's a segue into more spiritual healing, this type of cleanse, because I I implement the spiritual, purification, the first quadrant, second quadrant, mindfulness, third quadrant, embodiment, and the last one is self-love. And for one day to the next, I was in this dark closet, literally felt like I was pushed back in the world or excluded from the tribe. And all spirit told me was look back for when you were 19, look to 19, look back to 19. And it was like somebody took my brain, scrambled it up, and it had no connection to spirit, except I did because I got these trickles of messages. So I went
Mhm.
into my healing room and then started asking, what is this? Please tell me what this is. I'm like all of a sudden, health walking around the city, and now I'm not health. I don't even want to show my face. I can't cook for myself. I can't walk around the block.
Mm.
It's I feel like a fraud, all these
Yeah.
things was, coming up for me, and I didn't know how to do it. I usually always got myself out of it. So I just started really asking loudly. I heard it was specific supplements. I heard it was like, what you needed, emotions, but more, even though I had done coaching and healing and did people worked with clients one-on-one online, I knew I didn't have this tool. I didn't have the tools to go that deep, that far, because it was um, the generational healing that I didn't have the tools to maybe do. I did shamanic
Uh,
practices and everything. And so I was just, okay, tell me where to go. Saw someone's face, asked her. She worked with a theta healer. That's when I got started, getting trained in theta healing. And the other thing was the medical medium book. So that's where the specific, I didn't do all of his stuff, but I took what I needed, But the first page of his book was my life on the mystery illnesses page. And I realized how many people actually have Epstein-Barr virus, because that's what finally I found out, not only what I had, but what my mom gave me. So she actually died of over medication right
mm.
around that time where I felt that disconnect. It was all this, culminating. Business grew so fast. My mom's ending up in the hospital, almost dying. And then the stress of everything.
Yeah.
Even if I was eating great, you could lick my floors. I have no chemicals. I don't wash my clothes with chemicals. I don't wear perfumes. I'm clean. I eat organic. I do yoga. I meditate. I live that life, but I had stress that came out of nowhere, and that's the opportunist Epstein-Barr virus. So
Interesting.
I'm so happy that I found the name of that virus.
Yeah.
But immediately after, I got Lyme disease. So I had both. It was both of them can take your life. I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
They attack in similar
And
ways, it seems like they both like do zap your energy. They both like uh, affect your immune system. It seems like there's some similarities between the two.
there are, except under a microscope. If you go get your blood pricked and you look under a microscope, you can actually see Lyme disease and it spikes moving in your body, and it is really, really painful. It is,
Mm,
I would sit with friends and just stare off into them because I would start a few sentences and not know what I was talking about. I had no recollection. I couldn't eat, I was in bed with so much pain and not really knowing, well, what do I do? There's so much that I do. And for someone else that didn't have the lifestyle I did, they would just do what I would do probably to help
right.
themselves. But I was already there. Uh-huh. And
Yeah.
so I really had to pray louder, have more faith, and work on uh I did the generational, the ancestral healing. So in Theta Healing, they work on 4 levels of beliefs. The core belief system, which is what a therapist works on, your collective beliefs or your past life beliefs, things that are coming at you from the internet or the news. We also work on the soul, the trauma or different things our heart may hold, soul
Mm,
belief systems, and also ancestral, the DNA, what we inherit. And it could be generations and generations of inheritance of belief systems that we're operating with 95% beliefs. And so that was so fascinating to me. The first day I started, you know, seeing healing. And so I knew this was going to be my tool. I now am a master teacher. I help certify healers in that realm. And
mm,
I was able to heal instantly and see instant healings, but not for everything. So I was able to start my healing with Lyme and Epstein-Barr. But when we talk about um, my friend the other day, she said, well, I just want to, I believe in miracles. I believe in instant healings like you. I've seen you go through instant healings. I said, yeah, but I haven't, not all the time.
yeah.
There's been instances where I see this for myself or others, and there's a lot of times where we need to believe that everything that we came into our life, we've contracted. We've contracted that divorce, we've contracted that illness, we've contracted all these experiences for us to learn. It's a teacher. And yeah, I was used to healing so fast. And when these things came along, they broke me down to another level, but I was able to expand my career. And I also studied in medical intuition, which when I saw people sitting in front of me, I scanned their bodies and I was like, wow, there's so much Epstein-Barr out there in this world. Almost
Mm,
everybody I knew had it. But when I would talk about it, it was like, um, no, it didn't stick. It was something like mm, I- my mouth was moving and they weren't getting, they didn't want to
yeah.
hear it somehow. It was very interesting. It was almost like, no, that doesn't exist. But I'm still having pain. I'm still having, it expresses in hundreds of different ways. That's why I never really got, oh, all my life, it looked different, but it
Mm,
was the same root. It was the same root. And I feel a lot of that root of a lot of viruses and illnesses are emotional. And there's a lot of physical things that came with that too that might not be tied into emotion. But I'm glad I found that out because when I got diagnosed with cancer, I knew at that moment that cancer was part of what came through because my immune system all my life wasn't working
yeah.
for me to guard me from that. And I developed a clogged milk duct after my son's birth. But the doctor said, don't worry, that's just normal. It'll get harder and bigger, and don't worry. And it did. So I went a couple years and it got harder, it got bigger, and then later they discovered cancer. And I knew not to do the I think I went to 8 or 9 um, doctors, like conventional doctors. After I did Mexico, I did a lumpectomy. It was gone, and then it came back. It's more than it's an estrogen fed cancer, so any stress actually was feeding cancer. So
Wow.
imagine living with cancer and not being stressed. I mean, there's this like,
Right. Yeah.
what the most stressful part is, what do I do if I'm not going to do what they want me to do? And there's 9 of them wanting me to do the same exact treatment or I will die. So
Hmm.
imagine that lingering. You will die unless you do what I'm telling you. And that was a big lesson for me because I always had the uncertainty of the white coat in my background because I saw what it did to my mom.
Sure.
That's why I chose the natural lifestyle and the archetype of the healer. I'm going to do it on my own. I don't need you attitude. Um, so when I went to Mexico, it was warm. It was fuzzy. It's different than here. They'll hold up a cross and cry for you, you know,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
which happened once when I had a reaction to something they gave me. I had 4 nurses and they were, I'm not Catholic or I'm not religious, but they were, praying to God with their crosses and literally touching you and having an experience with you. Um, and that was wonderful. I feel like I went around the world and back to understand cancer at a very high cost financially because I'm very curious on, oh, wonder if this works, wonder if that works, but also the type of cancer that I was going through. Things would work for a minute and then it would pivot.
Seemed to
Yeah,
be
all that.
experiential.
Yeah, spending
Yeah.
400, 500 to 1200 a week sometimes to
Wow.
experience and experiment on certain natural things. And then all of a sudden it's not working. I have to those weeks of not knowing what to do, it was all about prayer. It was all about, give me the next thing, please. And everybody and your mom, was emailing you, texting you, calling you, leaving you Facebook messages, Instagram messages. I know how to heal cancer. My friend healed it through eating bananas or whatever. It was like
Yeah.
always something new
Yeah.
and different. And it was really eye-opening
Mm.
because even the Facebook groups, if you did chemotherapy, you weren't allowed to talk about natural healing on the groups that you were healing naturally. You weren't allowed to mention chemotherapy. And so I'm like, where is the middle? Where in
Yeah.
this world can we accept both ways and just be honest about what we want to put into our healing path without being criticized and judged?
Yeah.
And so I saw the world so incredibly insane, which I was glad because then COVID came and it was the same thing.
It was just more the same, wasn't it? Yeah.
More the same. When it hit, I was like, yeah, try cancer instead. When it really is just happening to you and nobody else, it's much more terrifying than when COVID's happening, you're at least sharing it with the world. When you're going through cancer, it's
Um,
an journey that no one can understand. They could
um,
try to understand, even if maybe they've had cancer too. It's a different kind of cancer. Maybe they went a different route. They have
yeah.
different people around them. It's so different. And um, I just started seeing this polarity, right? And I actually started integrating a little bit of, well, I had my lumpectomy, I did a mastectomy, I did some estrogen blocking pills, which, and then a hysterectomy. And it was really intense for me. It
Yeah.
was like being run over by a truck and flattened out and then run over again. With the estrogen going into menopause really quickly,
Yeah.
shifting your endocrine system like that. I knew that there was better ways. I just, with all the healing that I was doing, I did heal. I feel like I'm able to live this long. That's a miracle. I have been able to do it with No, they think I should still be on drugs for the rest of my life. I did it for a very short time, felt the um the miracle of whatever I was doing and all the natural things, including um medical marijuana suppositories at high doses. I think
Mm.
that was like a really cool ticket for a very short time. And then, leaving the conventional and even leaving the THC behind, just choosing and completely navigating kind of on my own. But they did give me a bone strengthening drug when I hit a stage 4. And I was happy. They didn't bug me with chemotherapy anymore. I was like, good, get off my back. I'm not doing it. And my bones were literally breaking my jaw. You could touch my jaw. I could hear it crunching from that. I think I only got
Wow.
3 shots once every month for 3 months. By that time, when I was on, conventional, I was tired. I was
Yeah.
so tired. And I realized now it was normal bones. Now I had osteoporosis worse than an 80-year-old times three, and your little block, any little fall could break my neck or my spine or my hips. It was the most terrifying, I think, out of
Yeah.
everything. So I promised I said, God, please heal this because I just want to snowboard with my son. At that time, he was 7 or 8. That was last year. And it was within a meditation. And I would, meditate. I work with master teachers. We work with, certain alchemical elements, of course, always with creator. And in a flash, I remember, I kept this meditation. I was really instructed by the teachers. And right when I was going to get a PET scan, right before bone density test, I was sitting in the chair. I thought about, let's do that meditation again. And I saw this flash. It was so different than the other times. And they said, yeah, you're normal. You're actually better than when you started. And I said, isn't that funny? Like just a few months and I'm went from the worst to normal. Don't you
Wow.
think that's miracle healing? They said, well, yeah, that never happens. And I remember them trying to send me to everybody and every doctor to want to get me back on that same drug that was breaking my bones. And I kept asking them, how do you heal osteoporosis, even to women going through menopause? They all said the same thing. There is no way to heal. And so these little huge miracle healings, I was able to snowboard with my son last year,
Wow.
right after that. And well, I wasn't going to go every day, of course. I just wanted to prove my point.
You've gone through one health transformation after another, after another, after another.
Yeah, a
And
lot.
it's interesting, like that you already had, well, because of when you were 19, you had this very set kind of like, I want to do natural healing as much as possible. I'm going to find ways to do this. I'm going to do cleansing. And that has deepened and deepened and deepened. And now it's cleansing and ancestral healing, which
Hmm.
not not a lot of people, I think, in the wellness community would think, well, we do one and we do the other, but we don't necessarily, I don't know that I've ever heard of anyone doing them at the same time. It's a part of the natural process that they're holding hands in the journey. And I love that you're doing that because it's like it brings a new it's like a new doorway has opened when you're combining those two. So that's pretty exciting for me. I love doorways.
Yeah, me too. They're
Yeah.
all they're all rites of passages. I knew
Yeah.
when I was a little girl that I would not repeat the patterns of my mother and I wouldn't repeat the negativity. I didn't want to have children if I didn't, clear that up. So I already knew I was going to be doing ancestral work. I just didn't know what that would look like. And it's been profoundly you know, I remember I'm not the healer. I'm just the conductor of the, I'm there to hold the space. I'm there to say the right words for that person. But there was a course I was teaching, Theta Healing, the basic one. I teach about 16 of them, but I was doing the basic course and the students were practicing. And I heard for one person, don't let the student work on her. She had 6 strains of Lyme disease.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and her son was killed by the police. So she was a very powerful healer and medium and spiritual teacher that blocked her gifts for 2 years for healing. She was healing trauma.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, we're gonna just do you as an example. I'll do the, I'll use you as an experiment or a demonstration of what theta
Yeah.
healing is at a very basic level. So it probably was a 25 minute, if that, healing. And she went into places she's never spoken about. And afterwards, I saw her doing her thing and her receiving messages again and feeling better. And she said, I really feel better. And she kept tapping on my shoulder. I feel, I feel better. I don't know how to say. I just feel like everything shifted. Usually, I wasn't surprised until she kept tapping me. She's like a mentor to me as
Hmm.
well.
That's
And when she
beautiful.
came back to class, I said, well, can you go back to the same test and ask, them to take it again just to see what shifted? And I asked everybody to scan her body to see how, you know, we had done her scan before the healing and then after in the morning the next day before we got the test results. She was able to use the bathroom normally. She slept normally. She had her gifts back. It was like she was online again. And people were noticing the difference. It
Oh,
was an amazing testimony. That was an amazing, demonstration as well to see a shift like that. And the test results came in, you don't have any more Lyme disease. So the power of working with emotion or anything that's been stuck generations back, or it could be in this lifetime, maybe having to do with something that we weren't able to release, has a lot to do with it could be anything emotional, mental, physical
our
health.
physical. Yeah, yeah. So for people that are kind of new to this understanding, this way of being, what would you recommend if they're experiencing an imbalance in their body, if they're having some kind of chronic issue, um, or even an acute one, what's a good starting point for them as far as like resources or tools or just something they can do at home?
Okay, so those chronic things, I would go to specialists to see, pull a special panel, which costs money. Unfortunately, not everybody has good insurance. It's a
Yeah,
lot of money to do. Um, I've also used medical and, intuitives to help. We can't always be our own best healer, but we are our own best healer. We also can't do this alone. And
yeah.
so, but that also costs money, all these things. I recommend going on, um, I recommend going to your source. The first thing, if you don't have a meditation practice, go within and ask for help and then get guided to where you need to go to. And that's what I like to tell people. There's a million things that I could share with you on how to heal, but that might not be for you unless we work together or you are accessing this information. You want to get to, if you go to, when I go to get regular blood work done, it's only very limited. This is like the average on an unhealthy population. But if you
Mm,
go to a specialist, they're going to tell you a better range for health. What my passion is getting people online for their purpose and passion, awakening their sense of true self and getting in touch with their own inner knowledge, with their own interconnection to their source, no matter where people are. Everybody's on their healing journey, especially during this time in existence.
Yeah.
Some people are just more aware of it than others, but the planet is going through transitional energetic shifts, and some of us are able to receive those much more than others. And everything is an opportunity, no matter where you are at. I have so many healers come to me and say, please don't tell anyone that I'm going through an illness or cancer or any, there people are a
Oh,
little shy about being a
yeah.
healer and going through their own breakdowns. It occurs at different, some people may not have anything to do with their bodies, like my husband, but some people may have things, financial breakdowns, or maybe it's relational, or, so everybody has their own stuff, no matter where you're
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
Um, and so really working with our energetic, because when we hold emotions, stored emotions, if it's for ourselves or our ancestors, and they haven't gone through their own emotional stuff from an abortion, from a loss, from a death, and then we inherit that, it's significant. And people don't understand how significant that could be. So for a whole year, I was working with uh, women and very few men, but everybody I got in that year, what I saw was if they wanted success, if they wanted health, if they wanted their divine lover to come in, whatever they were
Mm-hmm.
working on,
Mm-hmm.
whatever they just wanted spiritual growth. I always went to, you had an abortion, miscarriage, or loss of a child, or maybe their mom or grandmother or great grandmother. It was either in the lineage or it was with them, and they did not resolve it, even if they wanted it. They felt completely okay with an abortion or a
Mm-hmm.
miscarriage, but the soul wasn't okay with it yet.
Mm.
The soul didn't go through its stages yet. Same thing with anybody that's passed away. If we're grieving and we feel like we don't want to let that soul go, we can actually keep them in this limbo,
Mm.
and they're not able to pass into the light. And so I was working with the shamanic practices that I knew, just guided, until I worked with Theta. And so this is an example of one small piece of what somebody can come in for healing with. Like, they're not even aware that something like an abortion or miscarriage, loss of a child, death of a sister, brother, even loss of, whatever it is, that trauma can actually impact our growth moving forward if we don't go back and work it through, work it out, even if it's not ours, even if it's our mother's or
Mm.
grandmother's. We're more conscious than they are. Every child that is born, that is the intention, to evolve humanity. The children that we have are meant for, you know, if we can't do it, they're going to do it. That's all about evolution.
Yeah.
Instead of feeling like, oh, why do we have to do it? I just shared the other day, it's really important to look at alcoholics and addicts, drug addicts, whatever addiction out there in the world. It could be pharmaceutical addiction. It's really important to see that they might be the most empathic beings in the family system, in the
Mm.
family, because they are not able to cope with the energy, the emotions that their mom had and couldn't, digest it all, either through a loss, especially loss of child, abortion, miscarriage, or even their grandmother, and it keeps on moving through, and they experience survivor's guilt. In other words, why do I need to exist? I don't exist. Why am I living? Having a lot of
Interesting.
children dressed in black, or maybe they just feel like the outcasts, kind of the shadow of the family, and leads to alcoholism, addiction.
Yeah, I can see that sensitive people, you know, empathic and stuff like that. I can see those people feeling like the black sheep and feeling um, somewhat ostracized by society or their family unit, and using those negative coping skills, those coping mechanisms to like deal with the emotions and energy in the people around them. I can totally see that.
Yes, and it's by seeing the same thing reoccur that my own noticing with different healing modalities and really having that compassion for what they might be going through and not understanding it. Sometimes if we can't understand it, we don't know how to resolve it. My mom, suffering all her life through all her pain, what it was Epstein-Barr. The doctor told her it was all these other things, diabetes, it was, depression, it was all the different diagnoses over her whole life with new drugs and new drugs and new drugs, but never gotten to the root, dying of over medication. And, she just didn't know.
Yeah.
She didn't have the tools. She didn't have the awareness. We now have the internet. We have a discussion that never was discussed before the medical medium came out with mystery illnesses. I know there's fanatics out there for medical medium who've healed their way. I'm also just, yes, there's so many ways to heal. There are so many ways to heal. I know someone who healed their
Oh,
cancer through eating meat,
so
just an
interesting.
all meat diet.
But you have to choose what works for you. You have to be willing to be a little experimental and tap into what you really feel resonates within your being. Is that's what I'm hearing you say, like turning inside instead of listening to all the voices out here. Like maybe listen a little bit, and but really listen to hear.
And that's difficult to do when you've been in fight or flight all your life.
Yeah.
And there is no there because your mind can't go there yet. And so knowing just go with whoever feels right to help you on that path so you can access that truth. Healing happens in coherence, meaning get out of the fight or flight and the higher mind and heart when it's in sync. That's when the body repairs itself.
Mm,
And slowing down, which is a big blessing because the slowing down part was never easy for me. So being able to have to slow down in this way, and really being the first of your generation, either
yeah.
you're a healer or not healer, to learn to love yourself. There's no path given. There's no path laid out in front of you. You have to make your own way to
Mhm.
learn to, you know, how do you work with being an empathic in this crazy world? There's nobody leading that, the path where
Mhm.
most healers, especially in my family, and the old ways of healing are in the sacrifice realms. They're not in this
Yeah.
empowered realm. And so all
Yeah.
these new healers taking on their past sacrifice, or we're giving of ourselves to heal someone, or we're the healer but not the creator. These are all programs they might not even know they carry. That's the great thing about the subconscious. We don't even know that we're carrying these programs and out
Yeah.
into the world.
Yeah.
So once we start removing them, replacing them, we have more clarity, we have more intuition, we have more ground, we are able to connect to our hearts a little bit more. That's why I like to integrate into my work. And cleansing actually helps because when we're working with food, and well, maybe you just want to work on the basic levels, take out gluten, take out sugars, take out alcohols and things like that. And you are left without the comfort foods, the cakes and the crunchies and the carbs and all the things that you would to soothe your emotions. Now you have to
Hmm.
be with your emotions.
Yeah.
And within a group forum, we're able to cry about it, share about it, be able
Sure.
to see what's up for us. And I don't care how tenderized a healer is or a person, first time cleanser. Every time you dedicate to a program and yourself, the energy is so different. Some people would do my cleanses, either the 40-day green cleanse, That's the one that I is more of an introductory, but people could be more seasoned and still have their breakthroughs. They would
Sure.
join 5 times a year sometimes, and every time it would look different. They get to choose what levels they want. Right now, I feel like a little bit more, feeling like I can do more than before. Maybe they want to do a more gentle one. I just don't want to take it to a level where I'm taking everything away and having to do too much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where the Rainbow Awakening program came in, is, as I'm refining my own self, seeing these beautiful people changing their life in front of me, what wanted to happen was a program to support all these people on a different level that wanted to go even further. That's my bigger, you know, passion, is let's go deep within the group. It's so much fun I
Yeah.
know it's hard work, but
Well,
it's fun
it's better
too.
to get support. We're so conditioned by society in this toxic individualism and bootstrap, and I got to do it myself. And but to be able to just surrender and allow yourself to not only support others but be supported in your journey is huge. For some people, don't even know how to do that. So I love that you're doing this stuff in the groups, because like you said, we all have some kind of something that we're experiencing. I wouldn't want people to think that they have to go it alone or keep it quiet into themselves and put on the little shame box because I'm in an experience, right? But to be able to have a facilitator and have comrades, to share in that process is that makes it even more transformational, I believe.
Yes, and we sometimes don't know what we're going to show up with. We might make it to a call, um,
Mhm.
and we might not understand, oh, the whole week just went by. I have really nothing to share. And then you're on the call and everything comes out. Because
Mhm.
sometimes we don't give ourselves an hour just to process the week, process what we're experiencing emotionally, mentally, and being held by others that are going through the same thing. You're able to feel seen and heard. And, as adults, it's interesting how many of us really resist that, especially after COVID. Um, Really, the first program I did, a Rainbow Awakening program that I did after COVID, um, the sensitivities were so incredibly high. The Zoom, meeting didn't work and they weren't able to talk or be heard. And that really triggered a
Wow.
lot of
Yeah.
insecurities again, not being heard, some cameras weren't working. And it always is like that, right? The technology was actually assisting our processes and
Pulling out those triggers right away. Like,
pulling
let's
those
just take care of them
triggers
now.
for first 5 minutes. And even as adults, we have those insecurities of, I don't care if you're a president of a company and people could show up and you could be speaking all day long, very influential, but when it comes to emotions, and being seen in that way, we need
Yeah.
this type of work.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, um, I've full disclosure, I've been on exactly one cleanse. So I'm so new to the whole cleansing thing, but I also know people that have done it successfully for years and they love it and they do it regularly. So just out of curiosity, for someone like me, do you have any advice on, like, I know it's individual, but like what would be a good like start? What would be like a good intro to cleansing, and why maybe?
That's why I created the 40-day green cleanse, because it starts out with, you could even just do 50% green the first
Hmm.
week. And 40 days seems so long to someone that's never cleansed before. So just do 10 days. And usually
Hmm.
at the end of 10 days, they're like, I got this. It takes
Oh,
about 3 days to I call it get over the hump, because if you're getting off of caffeine and sugar and all the other things, processed food, some people go to McDonald's every morning, for
Yeah.
their sandwich. So there's people from all different kinds of backgrounds. And I always say don't go in hard, jump off the diving board, because then you're going to get a much more physical pain, headache, body pain, and
Mm.
you might need a lot more rest. Why don't you just go slow
I
and
like
take it
that.
out slowly and be
Yeah.
gentle with the slow so you don't feel like you're run over by a truck?
Mm.
Depending on how much glyphosate now is in the food, there's all kinds of different things. So taking it slow, drinking a lot of water, going on walks in nature. It's a whole lifestyle preparation that many of us got on the treadmill to. America's all about achievement, right? That's an
Hmm.
achievement treadmill. And
It
a lot
is.
of us got on this mentality, this archetype, this masculine energy, even women, that we have to do it all to survive. And
Hmm.
so when we step off the treadmill, we're not sure what to do.
Yeah.
And that's why the cleanse is there for support. The first 10 days is all about what do we do to purify the body? Drinking the water, you know, um, slowly, incrementally getting off of caffeine, slowly getting off of the sugar slowly so we're not hit by a truck, but knowing
Mm.
that those pains are part of the detox. And there's things that I like. I'm not a doctor. I cannot suggest supplements for people, but I can share what I'm taking, or maybe go see a natural doctor, holistic doctor who can supplement you on
Yeah.
what you are missing. Um,
I love your concept of going in slow, because there are not many people that talk about cleansing that's like, no, ease your way into it. You're
no,
probably the only one I've ever heard say, ease your way into it. It's okay.
you'd
And
have a lifetime to experiment. That's one of the words
yeah,
you did
yeah,
use. I always say our bodies, let's experiment, because that's what doctors do. That's what holistic everyone is experimenting.
yeah,
And if we don't feel it out for ourselves, and we're not going to know if that's for us or not, unless you have a allergy, something like that you just can't do certain foods. But you'll know, right? Through the process of elimination, especially when you go into green foods, you don't have to think about it too much. Let's just eat what's green.
yeah.
I like to stick with the most simple things, like the shakes, the juices, the soups are huge for me. I love soup. It's simple. It lasts for days. I don't have to think about it. And then once I get over the first few, maybe a week, I'm able to have way more energy to experiment with all the food, all the different kinds of things. Like, let's make a lentil burger, all green ingredients. If you don't want to take it that extreme, like I said, do 50% green and see what that feels like. Start implementing the
Mm.
drink, the tea that I offer people to incorporate, healing teas, a chai tonic, being able to do like a ritual in the morning, a certain kind of breakfast that may be so different from what they're used to.
Yeah.
They'll start as the mindfulness quadrant comes up, quadrant two, then I start implementing the different ways to think about your food and how you're eating and why you're eating and what emotions are eating you up, different things that might
Mm.
come out.
Yeah.
And so simple is the best. Hydration and nutrition, feeding yourself with the spinach, green beans, just simple earth foods. It's really, really important. And taking it easier. I also say write a letter to everybody you know to tell them to pretty much get off your back. Do not offer me beer or wine or cake. And most importantly, it's for
Yeah.
them. If I say no, I still love you. I'm
Yeah.
doing this for me, because they also have an emotional breakdown when you start going into healing mode and you start actually creating boundaries around you and what you need, and not
Yeah.
eating burgers with your husband or wife, it's like, wait a minute, you don't love me anymore? Oh, you're too
Yeah,
good for
it's
me now.
super interesting. I haven't eaten beef or pork in 25 years. Okay. It's just my choice. That's what works for me. And some people in my family are like, well, you don't eat beef or pork. Well, what can I make you? What I'm like, I eat literally everything else. Like, I'm fine. Even when I was vegetarian for a while, it was like, well, but you're not eating any meat, so I should make you something special. I'm like, there's a salad over here and some veggies. I'm good. Like, I don't need it,
Yes.
but yeah, the whole kickback, the whole fear of like, well, what does this mean? And are you still a member of the family in some like
Hmm.
macro context? And it's
Yeah.
like, I don't eat pork steaks, man. It's okay. I still am still in the family. As long as you still want me, I'm here.
Right. It's
Yeah,
it's it's
yeah.
incredible. And I say, go to Thanksgiving with your beautiful green beans made the sauce made out of cashews and green onions, and it tastes so delicious, and just like, hey, let's see who also thinks it's delicious.
Yeah.
And usually people are so surprised. Oh, I brought this soup. Everybody ate it. Oh, I brought this green dish. Everybody was like asking me about cleansing and how do you do it? So you become an inspiration. And I always say, how do we become the light and not give our light away, but
Mm.
just be a light. And if people want to also be inspired, then let them be inspired, including your children. There's no need to force any of this down your children's throat, because if you so selfishly cook for yourself and like hoard it in the corner, I'm positive that your, family are going to come curious. What are you doing? I want some too. And that's how it works.
Yeah, I love
You
that. I
know,
love that approach. That's great. So
uh,
if anyone that's watching and you heard you've mentioned the Rainbow Awakening program, it's a 8-week program um, that she's going to launch again in the new year, and it combines cleansing and ancestral healing and some energy and awareness and some really great things. And we're going to share some more information about that. So look in the Facebook link or in the chat box. And thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, your experiences, both in healing and as someone who helps others in their healing. It's been really enriching. And yeah, I think I'm going to try incorporating some more greens today.
fantastic. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for putting all of this together. I'm excited for also what's all included in this program of yours.
Thank you. I hope you enjoy the other speakers as well. Thanks for coming, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.